tremendous benefit for the residents at Rockport Country Club community. Of this project, I think it's well deserved and needed for our community. We at Rockport Country Club are eagerly awaiting and look forward to the opportunity to have the post-award conference meeting with the city officials, the contractor, the project engineer to discuss the operational details of the project. So again, we just want to say thank you to everyone that's been involved behind the scenes to help this project move forward. We're excited about it, and we say thank you for your continued support.
Thank you, sir. Ken Barron, also on the drainage and country club.
Ken Barron. I live at 402 Cascades in the Country Club. I'm also a director of the Country Club's HOA and a member of a citizens group. We call ourselves the Rockport Country Club Stormwater Drainage Committee. I'm here to support the new 42-inch pipeline extension that's being proposed that you'll be voting on today. It's something that's definitely needed in the country club. Those of you familiar with the country club drainage, there are 3 drain systems in the country club. The proposed project will affect the southernmost drain system, which needs help. During last July's flood, the 42-inch pipeline that drains the water for that system operated at about 20% of its capacity. 80% of the capacity of that pipeline went unused, and the floodwaters from that stormwater drainage area flooded into the central stormwater drainage area, which has some of its own problems and need to get rectified. The central drainage area could not drain its own waters, let alone the stormwater from the south area, and that all drained into the north stormwater drainage area. Now, about a decade ago, the city spent a lot of money fixing restrictions in the north stormwater drainage area, and we believe that's operating at 100% capacity at this point in time. But it's still flooded because it couldn't handle all the stormwater from the north system, plus all of the overflow from the central system and the overflow from the south system. So basically, the entire country club flooded. What this new project will do will put in a new large capacity overflow drain in the last pond in the south system and allow extend a 42-inch pipeline from that pond to the existing 42-inch pipeline and allow that pipeline to operate at 100% capacity instead of the 20% capacity during a storm. And that's what we need to prevent the water from overflowing into the central area and furthermore up into the northern area. So during the last July's flood, because that pipeline was not operating properly, we flooded the whole country club, all three areas. So we desperately need to have this project installed, and I'm here to support the approval of the project and to support the approval of the contractor to implement the project. Now, this doesn't solve all the problems that we have with the country club stormwater drainage system. There are more problems, but this is a huge step in the right direction to really minimize the flooding in the country club, and we need to implement this before we do anything else. But we also need to have more money budgeted in the future to take care of some of the other problems that are still out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. I have a letter from Mr. Patrick Kane of 1123 East Cedar Street regarding an item not on the agenda. I don't see him here. Patrick, if you're here, raise your hand and you can say it and I won't read it. Okay. Now I need my glasses. Mr. Mayor, on May 6th, in a personal message to all voters, you stated, "I will not support unnecessary higher taxes. I have promised to work to keep the city taxes low and be a conservative steward of city finances." Given that, why are you supporting the city's adoption of an ad valorem tax increase? The citizens are being asked to pay an additional $463,778 in taxes under the voter approval tax rate. Noticed in the last city council agenda packet that tax increase was presented by staff as a decrease in the tax rate from 2021. Hopefully, this isn't an attempt to confuse the citizens and make them think their property taxes will be lower. We all know that property valuations are up and the end result is higher taxes. Rockport citizens on fixed budgets are having to make their existing budgets work despite recent inflation. The city can do the same. Please work for the city staff to find savings in the proposed budget and adopt the no new revenue tax rate to avoid these unnecessary higher taxes. Andrea.
I have Ronan Rorex and Skip Carrier on 122 Cedar Ridge Drive, Rockport, Texas. In early July 2021, and this is not on an agenda item, I apologize, I should have mentioned that. In early July 2021, following an unrelenting rainfall, I watched in horror while the pond behind our house overflowed its banks and continued advancing rapidly toward our home, then covered the back porch and continued to our threshold. On checking our other doors, it had done the same, over the front porch right to the threshold, and the garage was underwater with water to the threshold of that door. Deer swam by both in front and backyards. A fawn had become separated from its mother and chose our front entry for refuge while calling for her for about 20 minutes until they were reunited. Never before in 25 years we have lived here and had the water come within 20 feet of our house. It is very horrifying to realize that there is no means of escape once the house is surrounded by water. We and our neighbors have made numerous attempts to contact anyone who could help with and correct the problems associated with the ditch besides our yard, to have it cleared of the trees which blew down into it because of Hurricane Harvey. The ditch is the responsibility of the city of Rockport. It is completely clogged and additionally a health hazard, often filled with mosquitoes and foul-smelled murky water. Absolutely nothing has been done to maintain the ditch or the overgrown eyesore, which is the responsibility of the city of Rockport. We did our part in the recent election to replace the unconcerned and indifferent city council members. Unfortunately, we were outvoted to continue with the same lack of policies, which would correct this problem.
Brad,
This one's on an agenda item.
they all are now. We're doing it right here.
This is Patrick Kane, 1123 East Cedar Street, Rockport, Texas, on agenda item number 10, in opposition. The city can and should do better with a new ordinance for golf cart inspections. Outsourcing inspections is a no-brainer. Doing so reduces the burden on city staff and puts the safety inspections into the hands of experts. The city should change permitted inspection facility to permitted inspector within the ordinance. The safety inspections don't require a special facility, and changing the language will allow mobile inspectors to also provide the service. Mobile inspectors are not only convenient to the citizens, they will also increase compliance for those who cannot easily drive their slow-moving vehicles across town. I disagree with the city raising the inspection and registration fee from $10 to $50. The chief of police stated during the June 28th city council meeting that he had 2 vendors approach him about doing the $10 inspections as they would profit from making the golf cart street legal. Clearly, a higher fee isn't needed to ensure we have safe vehicles on the road. If that is the case, then why does the city council need to charge more than $10? The answer isn't because other cities charge more, as those cities might provide meaningful benefits to their citizens, such as golf cart paths. We also don't need to fund education, outreach, and enforcement as proposed during the August 9th meeting, as those services are already part of the existing staff's responsibility. If the city won't leave the additional $40 in the citizens' pocket where it belongs, then at least put the money into a public works or parks department budget for the development of golf cart friendly infrastructure within the city.
Citizen to be heard, Elizabeth Green. Address is 104 Boardwalk Avenue. For agenda item number 10, noted as in support. I support the change to add OHVs to the ordinance. I don't think there is any reason to increase the fee on golf carts from $10 to $50, higher than car inspections. The addition of OHVs will add to the revenue base if additional funds are the issue. However, it seems that the OHVs require some extra inspection items. Fees for inspecting the OHVs therefore could be higher than the other vehicles.
Okay.
Bill Millam, 600 Enterprise Boulevard, 1513, in opposition to agenda item number 10. First of all, the Texas inspection requirement for cars is far, far less in cost. Secondly, inspection requires the car has mirrors, seatbelts, lights, turn signals, flags, and a triangle caution sign. That takes 1 minute. For $50, a money grab for the city and local vendors. Went to the police station recently and paid $10 at the window inside, and within 5 minutes, they had my permit. The officer did not spend the 2 to 5 minutes to bother to come outside and verify my safety additions, so I insisted on my new cart from the dealer. Thirdly, are these vendors that want to be part of the money grab, are they accessible by golf cart located on a 35-mile-an-hour less street? They really need to rethink this and quit trying to do a money grab and appreciate tax-paying residents of Rockport and the way of life we choose.
Next is the consent agenda. All consent agenda items listed are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Does anyone wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or debate? Not, we'll vote the item. Ward 1? Aye. Ward 2?
Aye.
Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4?
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Next item on the agenda, number 7, deliberate and act on second and final reading of an ordinance granting a conditional use permit to allow a quilt shop for property located at 2922 FM 1781, also known as Spanish Woods Estates Number 5, Lot 3B, being 1.148 acres, City of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, subject to compliance with the conditions stated within the ordinance as well as those stipulated in the City of Rockport Code of Ordinances, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for severability and providing an effective date. Are there any changes at all since the first reading? Any questions for staff? Okay. Great. Great. All right. Do I have a motion?
Appreciate that follow-up, and I'll move to accept the second final reading.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second. Have a motion second. Any further question or debate? Not, we'll vote. Ward 1? Aye. Ward 2? Aye. Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4?
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Item number 8, deliberate and act on second and final reading of an ordinance granting a conditional use permit to allow the use of manufactured home on property zoned R1, first single-family dwelling district, located at 826 Holly Road, also known as S3925 McCombs subdivision, Lot 6, 2 acres, City of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, subject to compliance with conditions stated within the ordinance, as well as those stipulated in the City of Rockport Code of Ordinances, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability and providing an effective date. Have there been any changes in content? Yes, come right ahead.
Request. I did ask code enforcement to go by today to check to see if any of the RVs had been removed as of yet, and they have not. And he has not as of yet done the septic system upgrade that he needs to do. And perhaps he's waiting to do that until this is approved. I don't know. I just thought she'd be aware of that. I don't see anyone. No, sir.
Mayor, if I may, from the code's perspective, I've talked with our folks. I can't tell you with confidence that they're in compliance with the code's requirements at this time.
Okay.
We've checked and we've tried to work with them, but at this point, and I've been out there myself personally and looked at it, looked at the property. It doesn't appear right now that they're in compliance with codes.
Okay.
And so
Thank
I can't, from the code's perspective, at this point in time, recommend approval.
Okay.
Chief or Carrie, have we had discussions with the property owner in regards to the
Well,
non-compliance or non-conformity?
yes, all of the RVs on the property are to be removed,
Yes, ma'am. No, I remember that from the last meeting.
but that's the only discussion we've had, that I've had. I don't know if, I believe Judy, the code enforcement officer, has spoken with him. But I didn't find any of those violations on the computer, just the zoning violation. So I don't know if he was given notice yet about them, because the RVs can't be there. It's R1.
Now, if we move forward with approving a cup, does that give you any more
Well,
standing as far
if they're
as-
not removed within the 90 days, then the cup is revoked. And the water meter's pulled, or the electric is shut down, everything gets turned off, and he's aware of that.
So you do still have a little leg to stand on, per se?
A little.
If the requirements of the cup are not met within 90 days and he removes the RVs as he indicated he would, then the cup would be revoked. And then he would not only lose the cup, but he would also have to move the manufactured home off the property
And the RVs.
and the RVs.
The existing manufactured home would not be
Correct.
R1.
Yeah,
Correct.
he indicated to us that he was moving all but one of the RVs off of the property. He was going to store one RV on the property, which is allowed. If he does not move the RVs off the property within 90 days, then the cup will be revoked, and he'll also have to move the manufactured home off the property.
I guess I heard from Chief Stevens. Can you all give us a little direction which way staff would like to see this move?
And again, let me clarify. I'm not opposed to the approval. I just can't recommend it at this point. Now we can if you do approve the cup, we can continue to monitor it. The RVs remain there; they're still there. We had hoped they would be removed already. They're not. They remain there. So given that and some other factors, I'm just not at a point where I can say I'm for it. I recommend it. Not necessarily opposed to it, because again, as Mike has stated and Curry stated, we do still, to use your phrase, have a leg to stand on. We can work with that, and we'll continue to monitor it. We'll hold him accountable. But just I'm at a point where I can't sign off on it at this point, but I won't stand in the way of it either. I'm not going to be opposed to it.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
Perhaps add into the language of the cup that if the 90 days lapses and he has not complied, all utilities will be suspended. Can you, okay. Well, that is part of the ordinance, though. Right.
I think adding the CUP gives the chief more leverage for the code compliance. I mean, it basically takes it out of his hands, and it's either done or it's not. If you have to remove your residence, that's a bigger stick, or if you would call it, than a fine or whatever that could be imposed. So I think approving it gives us more leverage. I see your perspective, but that's my opinion. If you want to, though, you can table it till the next one and give them 2 more weeks to see if they make any progress.
Option there.
She was here to speak.
I do too, and he was
That's
supposed to
unfortunate.
be here. I'm not sure why he's not.
The agreement with the first reading was that he has 90 days to come compliant. If he
Correct.
does not come compliant within that 90 days, then we do exactly what we said we were going to do. We remove the cup, we remove all the RVs and the manufactured home from the property, and it reverts back to R1. We've given him 90 days from our first discussion with him. To this date, he's made no progress, but he still has the remainder of the 90 days. If he doesn't take any action, then he knows what the consequences are going to be.
Anyone else? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve item 8 as presented.
Have a motion second. Any further discussion or debate? If not, we'll vote Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3,
Aye.
Ward 4. Mayor, aye. Item number 9, deliberate and act on second final reading of an ordinance amending the City of Rockport Code of Ordinances, Chapter 106, Vegetation, Article 1, General, and Article 2, Tree Regulations, repealing all ordinances to the extent that they are in conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
There was one revision to the actual ordinance. I inadvertently left out the providing for penalties clause. And so thank goodness our legal counsel caught it. So that has been added to the actual ordinance.
Okay. Any questions?
I make a motion to approve agenda item number 9 as read.
I have a second.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any further question? Any debate? If not, vote. Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3,
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. I'm glad we got this done. This has been sitting on the table for a really long time.
Thank y'all.
I'm glad it has meat in it. That's the important part. It has the meat instead of just a slap on the hand.
All right. Item 10, deliberate and act on second final reading of an ordinance amending the City of Rockport Code of Ordinances, Chapter 98, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 6, Golf Carts and Neighborhood Electric Vehicles, repealing all ordinances to the extent they're in conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Chief?
No changes since the first reading.
All right. Yes.
All right, so I've heard from not only family members, but friends, residences, constituents of mine and just of the city. Most are in favor of the ordinance, not necessarily the fee increase. And I know when we presented, we said the $10, and we really didn't. We said we could put in there whatever we wanted. We came back and we got with 50. And Mr. Kane actually made a good point of if we do stick with the 50, where's that extra 40 going to go? And is there somewhere we could put it, or is it just going to the general fund, or do we go back down to something that we're used to?
So if you guys want to do some sort of restricted fund or restricted use for that, we would come back with an ordinance to create that fund, and then we would earmark that money. It would go in the general fund still. It'd still go to the bottom line balance, but it would just be earmarked or encumbered to use for whatever you vote to use it for. We would need a specific use. I know that someone had mentioned education and some things like that, but we're not getting $40. We're getting 25, right?
Yes, so the way the ordinance is written right now, it is a 50-50 split with the vendors that sign up and that are approved to do the inspection, if that's correct. The way the ordinance is currently written, 50% they keep, 50% they send in per sticker that they are held accountable for, correct?
Okay.
I know we discussed that the vendors that have come forward and want to do it, they're gonna do it and try to make some money on making the golf carts and or OHVs street legal. So that's kind of going to be their foot in the door on that. You know, they can, but if we keep it at $10, $5 probably doesn't even pay for their time to do the inspection. What are our fees on the sticker? Like, what's our overhead on the stickers going to be? Do we have any idea on that?
So I tried to come up with that, and I was unable to because we bought so many a while ago that I don't have an accounting figure for that. However, there is a cost for that, and there will be some administrative time and cost for us to keep track of that and to make sure that what we give out, you get that, to make sure that those are accountable. Rather than right now, we've got a ledger and we've got a tracking system, but now it'll go out to right now at least 2 different places, and we want to be able to track that. So there'll be some administrative overhead. I don't believe it will add up to $25 per golf cart. So there is, for lack of a better word, profit. But nonetheless, and again, what the city manager said, where that money goes and what it's allocated to will be y'all's decision. I think there's some good opportunities for it, but at the same time, That's a decision for y'all to make. I do think that it ensures that there is enough there that the cost that it takes is borne only to those that drive golf carts and OHVs around the city rather than those that don't. So that it's not being paid for by the whole group, just by the group that is benefiting from it, if you will.
Other questions?
If we were to give this own line item, magic accounting stuff. Okay, yeah, no, it's general, it's gonna be a general question.
All right, I got you.
Okay, and there's 300 golf carts that are inspected. And at $25 a golf cart, that's $7,500 a year to the city that we can use for signs. Your golf cart doesn't belong on the sidewalk type signs, whatever signs we deem necessary. The pamphlets for education, the where, and all of those things may not add up, but, buying signage for the roads, signage for the RV parks. Hey, if you haven't done this yet, you need to go do it first.
Sure, absolutely.
So for me, that revenue already has a spot to be used. We just don't have a line item for it to go into. That's how I see it.
And I've got some suggestions for that are related specifically to golf carts that we would bring up at an appropriate time. Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Second, I can understand the concern that's been voiced about the two vendors we're looking at right now. Are golf carts accessible to those vendors, or do they have to load it up on a trailer and drive it down?
Well, so it brings up actually a great, and I'll jump right into one of the things that I think this money could be used for, and it would take a little time to build it up. One of the problems we got, one of the stops that we do make that are people trying to get across 35 to get basically from one half of the city to the other, and to remain in compliance with our ordinance and with state law. They have to sort of jog their way over. So to answer your question specifically, they are, but you have to take the long way. Get your $200 when you pass go, if you. So to create a path, one for more ease for golf cart travel, I think the money could be saved up for that, and it would make places. So to answer your question, they are accessible. We could make them more easily accessible by using this money here down the road, I think. What we see often, I don't know what the percentage is when we inspect golf carts. I'm gonna say that I don't know that it's a 50-50, but a good number of them are trailered to us anyway, because we're inaccessible, quite honestly. It's difficult, unless you live in South Rockport, it's difficult to reach us. A lot of times when we get an address, we know that they probably were not in compliance with the ordinance to get there, and they drove it, obviously, so they had to take a lot of back residential roads to get there, and more than likely, they ended up on a road somewhere. So we're just as accessible as the places that are going to do this. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Actually, that was more thorough than I wanted, so I appreciate that, LT. Tell you, LDOs.
Mustang.
That's all the questions I have. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Yes. I don't know if you answered that. So at $10, do you guys find yourself losing money on doing this? And I mean, that to me is going to be more important. Are you losing a lot?
At $10 for us, absolutely. But the fact that we end up calling officers in off the streets on weekends, and that our admin staff, difficult to do that accounting. But if I were to do that accounting, we are losing money in terms of manpower and things like that. If we were to keep it, I would be coming to you to ask to increase that fee anyway. Yes.
Anyone else?
Oh, sorry.
No, I appreciate the feedback in our conversations previously about preserving this fund. I think is imperative, whether that be to infrastructure or signage or a path or education. I think there's a good opportunity for this extra revenue to be used to address longstanding issues regarding the golf usage in our community. I will note I've not received any specific input from any of the Ward 2 residents. But prior to this, I mean, if there's any input, it's all been negative about, individuals who are not following the rules, especially with underage and minors. So I think there's definitely opportunity for education. At the end of the day, people make decisions to follow the rules or not. But I think with more opportunities for folks to get the right information, I think we're better off. I don't know that I have a hard decision on the $50. That may be more than necessary. But I definitely agree with raising above the 10 to cover our existing expenses and to provide a mechanism for us to do more and commit more in our community for the safety of our residents regarding this ordinance. So that's my comments.
Appreciate it. Brad?
Can we amend on the second reading, the amount? Down but not up. Brought it up.
Any further questions?
I move to approve item 10 and then changing the fee to $20 as opposed to $50.
Second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions?
I haven't had individual discussions with them. I believe that one of them will. I don't know about the other one.
To further amend the motion for a $40 fee.
Okay. Questions that we did not ask for a second to his motion?
Second.
We got it.
Mine was seconded.
We got it, but hers comes up first. Okay. I have a motion to make the fee $40 as opposed to $20. Is there further questions or discussion on that matter? We would vote first and need a motion or second on the amended, yes, on the amended motion, yes.
I'll make the motion on the amended, or I'll second the motion for the amended
Okay.
motion.
I have a motion and second that the rate be established at $40. Is there any further question or comment?
I have one comment, just because we have two motions here for two different pricing. So I have gotten complaints as well with the pricing that come in hand, but I also see it from your point of view. Is this something that if we approve it, say for the $20, we can change, if he comes back, if this is not making profit, we're losing money still, we can change it later on?
Amend your fee schedule anytime.
Right now, I have a motion and a second. The primary motion before us right now is that the rate be $40. I have a motion and a second. Do I have other discussion, question on that matter?
A comment real quick. Chief said we're already losing basically time against payroll on $10. So we changed the fee to $10 and that does not alleviate Chief's issue. Or the city staff issue for that, because it's all going to go to the finance department instead of going to the police department.
And I'll agree with Katie. I mean, the math makes sense at $40. If we go to 20, we're still at a break even, but provided two new vendors or replacing two new vendors and getting you out of the business. So again, that was the original intent, was to get the chief out of that business. I'm generally okay with that, but I think we've all agreed that some form of investment makes sense. So that's why my support is with Katie on the 40 at this time.
In that case, I would call for a vote on the motion that the fee be set at $40. Ward 1. Aye. Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
No.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Motion passes 4-1. Item number 11, deliberate and act on. Yes,
You're done.
we don't, my understanding, do we vote again on the first amendment that the fee be $20.
You don't have to.
Good.
You amended
We
it,
made it, yes.
but as the city secretary said, you've still not voted on the main motion. You voted on an amendment to the main motion.
Okay, all
So,
right.
Vote one more time.
We had a school on this not long ago, and we took notes, and we all forgot what they told us. Okay. The main motion was, no, $50. Man, you had your second, he said the 20 I didn't have to do. Okay. Obviously, the legal counsel and city secretary know what it is we're supposed to do. So we will ask for a motion. We have a motion and second that the fee be $20. And I'll call for.
So Mayor, if I
Yes, sir.
could, so the motion, you're correct, that was the motion, which was amended to 40. And so you're just taking a vote now on this item at
The whole thing
$40.
is at
Yes.
$40.
It's, or, no, she said 40.
Tell me, Teresa.
That's right.
That's true. Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
We can do that. For y'all out there watching on TV, this is interesting. Okay. The motion therefore would be for second reading. We are voting on passage of this motion as written with the stipulation that it's $40 instead on second reading. I would like a motion to that effect. The first motion we had was for 20, the second one was for 40. We don't have to change this up. We just need to vote. Ward 1, 2, 3, 4. Aye. Okay. Still don't know for sure what we did, but we passed it. Tell that lady she did very well, but we forgot. All right. Number 11, deliberate and act on final reading of ordinance amending the City of Rockport Code of Ordinances, Chapter 102, Utilities, Article 2, Water Service, Division 3, Service Charges, by amending water rates for all customers, providing for validity of said ordinance, repealing all prior ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. Katie, is there any
Good
change?
evening, no changes.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve agenda item number 11 as read.
I have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any further discussion?
Katie,
Not-
just to confirm, pass-through fees, correct? Just go on the record that our rate increases, 3-something%?
3% increase on water.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is in anticipation of the 8 to 10% increase from San Patricio
San
Municipal
Pat
Water
Water.
District.
Okay. So it's not us just raising it arbitrarily. We are a pass-through cost to San Pat Water. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Have a motion second. Any further discussion? Not recall for a vote. Ward 1? Aye. Ward 2? Aye. Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4? Aye. Mayor, aye. 12, deliberate and act on second and final reading of an ordinance amending the City of Rockport Code of Ordinances, Chapter 102, Utilities, Article 3, Water Service, Division 4, Service Charges, as amending wastewater rates for all customers, providing for the validity of said ordinance, repealing all prior ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. No changes whatsoever.
No changes.
Any questions? If not, call for a motion.
I move to approve agenda item 12 as presented.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Further questions or debate? If not, we'll call the vote. Ward 1? Aye. Ward 2? Aye. Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4? Aye. Mayor, aye. Number 13, deliberate and act on second and final reading of an ordinance amending the City of Rockport Code of Ordinances, Chapter 102, Utilities, Article 5, Natural Gas Service, Division 3, Service Charges, by amending natural gas rate for all customers, providing for the validity of said ordinance, repealing all prior ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date.
No changes on this one.
Any questions? I have a motion.
I move to approve agenda item 13 as presented.
Have a motion and second. Any further question? Not, we call the vote. Ward 1? Aye. Ward 2? Aye. Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4? Aye. Mayor, aye. Deliberate and take, number 14, deliberate and take action on final reading of an ordinance amending the City of Rockport Code of Ordinances, Chapter 82, Solid Waste, Article 2, Refuse Collection, Section 82.39, Fee Schedule, setting new fees for the service, repealing all prior ordinances in conflict herewith, providing publication and an effective date.
Has no changes either.
Okay? Any question? Not.
I move to approve agenda item 14 as presented.
I have a second. I have a motion second. Any further question? Call for a vote. Ward 1? Aye. 2? Aye. Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4? Aye. Mayor, aye. Number 15, deliberate and act on approval to award a contract to Mako Contracting LLC to complete Rockport Country Club drainage improvements. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and thank you to everyone that spoke tonight in favor of this project. This is going to be the first step in some drainage improvements within the Rockport Country Club, the greater Rockport Country Club area. And I appreciate the input from all the folks that have visited with us. Councilman Hatman was thoroughly involved with meeting with several groups. And tonight we're here to propose a project that consists of approximately 1,315 linear feet of 42-inch drainage pipe. And it also has concrete drainage structures, retaining walls, sidewalk, pond cleanout, and drainage excavation. And on July the 27th, bids were opened and reviewed. We had one bidder. It was a local bidder. The bid was received, and the bid package was reviewed and determined to provide the best value for the city. 2 alternates were bid for the project. One was for what we call RCP drainage pipe and HDPE drainage pipe. One of them is plastic, one of them is concrete. We went with the concrete alternative, which is the pipe of choice for this area for drainage pipe being put in the ground. Plastic pipe sometimes has a tendency to float once it's in the ground and not full of water when the rain gets underneath it and such. And we are asking tonight for council to approve a contract to Mako LLC in the amount of $833,537.31 for the base bid plus the alternative for the RCP pipe. Be happy to answer any questions. We have the country club staff that is here tonight. We have the project engineer on site, and we'll answer any questions that y'all might have.
Council?
Can we do the financial one first? Katie, refresh my memory where this money's coming from, please.
The majority of it will be coming out of the operating budget where we have money funded, the line item where we pulled money from the CDL. And we also are using let me rephrase it, the majority of this is actually coming from unused bond proceeds, and then we'll supplement anything in addition coming out of operating.
It's flip-flop.
Did I flip-flop it?
Yes.
I keep flipping it in my head.
Yes.
So it's coming out of the operating budget, the line item where you put 975,000 in last year, and what we are short there, we will pull out of unused bond proceeds.
Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions?
I'd like to make a comment, just to the staff and to the council and to the Rockport Country Club HOA. We've worked really hard on this in the last year and tried to come up with something that's going to help not just the country club, but does help that surrounding area with their drainage issues. And it's something that's much needed, and it's a project that needs to be done. I do want to say thank you for all your hard work, staff, and I really do hope that this can go through because it's something that really does need to be done in our area. So thank you.
Mike, is a process. I wasn't probably involved when this first went through, but I'm assuming Swartz Associates is this design bid. So did they do the advertisements for the solicitation, and will Swartz be overseeing the project?
Yes. Yes, the engineer will oversee the project. We also have our project manager for our staff. Our drainage superintendent will monitor the project. We will work in conjunction with the country club staff. If the bid is awarded tonight, we'll have a pre-construction meeting on site with the staff, the engineer, and city staff to determine a schedule that best fits the needs of the country club itself and to ensure that we have accessibility to the course as needed. And we'll also set the parameters for where the contractors enter and exit the golf course itself. We'll take video and pictures of what it looks like prior to the project. And then once the project is complete, to ensure that we put it back the way that we said we would, and that the contractor did not do any further damage to the course itself.
Thank you, Mike. And with, so Swartz is here, is that correct?
Yes.
Just for the record, I'd really like to hear, your explanation for a single bid being received. And I get it, it's tough in this world right now to get bids, but I think it's important that that come into the record, and would love to invite you up to the podium, please, to give that explanation. And as it's coming up here, I want all to know I support the project. I just really want to understand what's going on with our bidding right now.
No, I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of work in this area, and the contractors that do this kind of work are tight with on time right now. That would be my reasoning behind. We advertised, we went through the process we talked to people. I was hoping, we gave out 7 sets of plans, just didn't receive bids. We got some interest from out of town contractors. And I think what happens, especially in Rockport, as you guys know, playing in the sand and the groundwater chases a lot of people out. So you need people that know the area. And I think once they get in and find out the intricacies of working in this area, they get scared away. We got really lucky. The contractor that we got, and especially the sub on these, are both very familiar with working in this area, very familiar with working in the sand, very familiar with working with well pointing, and so. That in conjunction with the RCP, which actually came in cheaper, which we were shocked, but it came in cheaper than the HDPE pipe, showed that was a win-win for us, because that's the pipe of choice for this area, especially when we talked about the allowances we were going to have to make to use HDPE. We bid both of them so that we could ensure that we got competitive numbers, and that kept both pipe manufacturers in check. And would have been nice to have a couple more people bid, but I think we got a good number, and we got a good contractor.
And just, again, excuse my ignorance, how did you advertise this?
This was advertised in the Rockport pilot, and we also sent out bid packages to known vendors within the local area. We did send those out.
Okay, so the 7 that were distributed are sending out, not requested bids.
No, they were.
It was both.
Yeah,
You had a
Okay.
combination of both. We put it in the newspaper. We had people that responded to the ad, but we also mailed it out to known contractors within this region to let them know that we had a project that was out for bid.
Thank you.
This isn't, by the way, this last couple of years has been really weird with the way contracts, and this is pretty standard operating for what we're seeing, 2 or 3 bids, 1 or 2 bids. I've been doing this for a while now, and we actually had a project get no bids. And so it's, people are picking up plans, but either they're the flux with the cost of construction and the unknowns, and some people just step away from it. Even though we've had good active pursuit of the project, we still have rebid stuff later because we couldn't get the numbers that we were seeing. I really think a lot of the utility work in this area, there are 2 or 3 really, really good contractors that have locked this area up. And if they're booked, I was told they're on other projects and they can't meet the budget or the time frame that we're looking for. And so it might push the project back a year and a half to get 3 more bidders that are familiar with the area. And so, like I said, Island and Mako are great contractors, and I think they'll do a great job for you guys.
Thank you, I agree. Again, we've got to ensure that we're doing our due diligence,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
we're getting the word out there. We can't force people to bid, and we can't control what the market says right now. But absent of bids sometimes is a clue to our process. So I believe.
It was advertised twice.
No,
So,
that's good. And I agree with your assessment that they're both reputable companies. Thank you, sir.
no problem. Thank you, guys.
Anyone else? I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept agenda item 15 to award the contract to Miko Contracting LLC to complete the Rockport Country Club drainage improvements.
Do I have a second? Have a motion second. Any further question? Before we vote, I would like to say that I want to thank Councilperson Hatman for working so diligently and dedicatedly with our people and our friends from out at the country club. She has worked really hard with y'all, and I appreciate the time that you have taken to work with her. She has been very, very helpful in explaining to some of the rest of us some of the issues that you had, and I appreciate her hard work. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, call for a vote. Ward 1? Aye. Ward 2?
Aye.
Ward 3?
I love this project. I will need to abstain for potential conflict.
Ward 4? Aye. Mayor, aye. Motion passes. Item 17, 16, we'll hear and deliberate on presentation, City of Rockport Drought Contingency Plan. Mike?
Here, on October the 11th, part of our staff attended a meeting over in Portland, Texas with the City of Corpus Christi and San Patricio Municipal Water District. And we had a discussion on the current drought conditions and the possible transition into Stage 2 water restrictions. And just for a matter of reference, by ordinance, the City of Rockport plan must mirror the plan from San Patricio Municipal Water District. And by agreement, San Patricio's ordinance must mirror that of the City of Corpus Christi. So basically, whatever Corpus Christi does, it flows down through San Pat to the City of Rockport. When we had the meeting a couple of weeks ago, we were looking at the strong possibility of moving into Stage 2 drought conditions. Since that time, the lake levels have risen. If you've watched any of the local news today from 4 to 6, the lake levels have risen. Corpus Christi is backing off on their transition into the Stage 2 water restrictions. Currently, we are under Stage 1 water restrictions. We have a very brief PowerPoint. If you'd like us to run through it real quick, we can talk about our drought contingency plan. We are required to have a drought contingency plan, and that plan is to be reviewed every 5 years. It was last reviewed in 2019, so it's going to be coming up for review, and we work with San Patricio Municipal Water District to do that. So, Gene, if you want to run through the PowerPoint real quick, it'll give you an idea. While he's moving to the podium, I'm going to come up and pass out a piece of paper. In the last 2 council meetings that we've been discussing this, Councilmember Hale has asked for some water consumptions, and I have a chart and some dollars for you to look at about what our water looked like when we last had a drought back in 2011, 2012.
Just real quick, 13 days makes a lot of difference. Dallas had 67 days, the longest second longest dry period in, and then they were slammed by floods. So there's a big difference in time frame. The presentation was after we had attended the meeting, and so we used some of their data. So he already stole all my thunder, so I'm going to real quickly go through this real quick. There are some things we need to be cognizant of. Drought restrictions do still plague the Nueces River Basin. We're going to go through drought contingency plan, the adoption and implementation, current drought status and forecast, what our watering restrictions are currently, and then the different stages. And then the last slide, talking about how we maintain people on the conservation team to achieve our conservation goals and try and avoid enforcement actions against individuals. The City of Rockport adopted the plan on July 28, 2020. As Mike said, City of San Pat follows the City of Corpus Christi's watering restrictions. We follow San Pat's. Those cities that attended were Odom, Taft, Portland, Gregory, Ingleside on the Bay, Aransas Pass, Rockport, Rincon Water Supply Corporation, and Seaboard Water Supply Corporation. Just how it rolled out on June 14, 2022, before hitting the 40% combined lake level of Stage 1, Corpus Christi called Stage 1 watering restrictions. 2 days later, on June 16th, the City of Portland followed suit. On July 1st, San Patricio Municipal Water District, which we are under their jurisdiction to follow theirs, declared Stage 1, and we went into Stage 1 that same day. I think this slide, just a quick reminder for y'all, There's 4 water sources for the city of Corpus, the Corpus Christi surface water rights that are pumped into Lake Texana water, which then flows via Mary Roads pipeline to Corpus. And then the 2 main reservoirs are Lake Corpus Christi and Choke Canyon Reservoir. I think the thing to note here, if it rains along the coast but doesn't fall in that watershed, those lakes still suffer and do not fill. The extreme to exceptional drought is occurring in the upper Nueces River Basin. This is a dated slide. I'm sure that's changed because of the rainfall, but there's still exceptional drought within the basin. Combined lake level capacities then and now. This is what concerns Corpus and us as a region. Choke Canyon last time this year was 49.9% full. It's now 34.2 currently. Lake Corpus Christi was 92.4% last year this time. We're at 43.8. That's almost a reduction of 50%. The combined Choke Canyon and Lake Corpus Christi lake levels, and that's what we tee off as far as percentage reductions, was 61% last year. This time we're at 36.9. Yesterday we were back up to 38, so we're closer to 40 than we are 35%. Lake Texana lies east, 99.4% last year, and they're 74.3% this year full. This slide was Corpus's slide, and they kept saying that there's only a 1% chance that we would avoid drought. And so that was their takeaway. That was 13 days ago. Things have changed. The forecast for rain has changed. And I have to show you this slide. This is recent rainfall at Choke. That Sunday it rains, it goes up, and then kind of levels off. Lake Corpus Christi, similar, but this has as that slug of water moved down the Nueces River Basin, has went up considerably. And I looked at that. We were at less than 120,000 acre feet. In Lake Corpus Christi, we rose to 155,000 acre feet. Okay, that was a 35,000 acre foot increment, and it went up 2.5 feet. Well, that does sound really good. We were at 240,000 acre feet last year in Corpus Christi, and so we're still 85,000 short from where we were last year, and that's what Corpus is concerned about. We're concerned about. This slide right here is a little off, but this shows the, thank you. Let's see if I can get this straight. Shows the 2011 drought and the downgrade of there. This shows the 2021 drought. And just of note, you know, the 20 inches we got back in February didn't show up on the combined lake levels because it fell here. And then we moved up and came back out of the drought. Then from September, we were on a decline. And ever since January of 2022, we've been on a decline until recently we've gotten a little bump. This is their modeling, and this is why they were wanting to go into stage 2 early. They were predicting when they hit 35%, even though the trigger level is 30, that they wanted to go into stage 2, like Corpus Christi. And it's because there's the actual and the worst case modeled scenario that we would be in as low as to maybe the 20% levels later on in the year without any other rainfall, and that is the worst case scenario. What are our restrictions? Stage 1 watering restrictions. Even addresses are on Tuesday, once a week watering. Odd addresses are on Wednesday. Multifamily and businesses are on Thursday. Hand watering is allowed. You can put your kid out there, Brad, make them water. Irrigation with water wells, new landscape for establishment purposes is allowed. Washing of vehicles is allowed with a trigger nozzle. Can't just run on the ground and have to have something to cut it off. And filling of pools and fountains is allowed. The stage 2 restrictions is what we were dreading, would reduce landscape watering to once every other week or every 2 weeks you would get to water. This really plays havoc. You can maintain a lawn with once a week watering. It becomes really hard in the middle of a drought to do every other week. How does this affect the city of Rockport? Well, it does cut water usage, but water revenues are also part of our general fund too. Maintaining good landscaping, which is a draw to the area, has also become more difficult. And some residences, when you hit the every other week lawn watering, will just simply give up on their lawns. Every other week, again, even addresses Tuesday, Wednesdays are odd, and multifamily are Thursday. Hand waterings allowed, irrigation with water wells. New landscaping for establishment purpose is allowed with permission. They have to call in, get permission. Washing of vehicles is allowed with the trigger nozzle still, and filling of pools and fountains is allowed. Stage 3 becomes more draconian. We would hit it when lake levels fall below 20%. Landscape irrigation is prohibited, period. Washing of vehicles is prohibited. Commercial car washes are still allowed at this stage. Filling of pools and fountains is prohibited. Hand watering, fountain integrity is allowed on the stage 2 watering days. When we did have the freeze back here in, we were issuing a boil water notice because we ran out of water because of all the busted pipes. We did go into stage 4, which is emergency water shortage conditions. Landscape irrigation is prohibited, washing of vehicles prohibited, filling of pools and fountains is prohibited, hand watering and maintaining foundations is prohibited, zero water usage except for washing your hands and toilets is maintained. So what are we trying to achieve? Thank God it rained. Awareness, right? In your billing insert, we announced even ahead of time, hey, stage 1 is probably looming and coming up. We plan to stay ahead of that. If we feel that it's going to be called stage 2, we'll communicate in those bill inserts as far as to what those things are. We believe that communicating clearly with our citizens is probably the biggest thing that we can do. And if we have blatant disregard for the water use restrictions that are in place, this may warrant enforcement. I think, Greg, you said you were going to get the water gun out there for enforcing. Okay. And I think in general, we want to let you know where we're at. Thank God it rained. As we get closer, if we really think we're going to be in stage 2, we'll make those communications. And, if you have any feedback, we're always looking for feedback as to how to enforce these regulations. We sure would like to hear it also. So, any questions?
We appreciate it.
So Mike, do we want to talk about the handout now, or we're going to let him run away?
No, we can talk about it now if you'd like. Again, water consumption from 2010 to 2013, we gave you a graph, and we also have the financials down at the bottom. And it shows that when we were in the drought of 2011, 2012, we did have a decrease in our water sales, and that is to be anticipated. And we do monitor it. If you've got specific questions about the graph or anything, we'd be happy to answer them.
I think this is good. I think, when we were discussing this from a budgeting standpoint, I just didn't want to get us caught off guard if we had a significant reduction in our revenues to be able to meet our operational needs. So I'm looking at you and I'm looking at Katie. If both of you say, yep, we're good, we think we're all right. Some of these numbers are a little
So when we review those numbers and put those charts together, those are the consumption that we actually billed for. You'll see some decrease, but if you look at years 2011 and 12, those are the years in which we had the drought. I believe it was 2011, it maintained. You'll see that it did increase. And the other thing to keep in mind is the reason we showed you consumption versus dollars is because our revenues changed based on our rate. So it's kind of difficult for us to show it as far as dollar amount went. So we went with consumption, knowing that our consumption would hold steady as a trend is our expectation if we were to go to a level 2 or greater. Now, if we went to a greater, we do not have that kind of trend history, but we could anticipate based on doing some modeling where we would end up.
I'm glad we don't have that data.
Amen.
Just saying. So yeah, again, it was really just an opportunity for us to just take a look at our history, remind ourselves that we have something historical to go to. If you guys still think that, we're good and at least we're monitoring it for your budgeted purposes, that was really the intent of this exercise. And I appreciate that. Just off the top of your head, what is our normal July, August, consumption?
3 million
Currently.
gallons a day, roughly.
300?
3 million gallons a day.
Okay.
People are in town, July 4th.
Right, so in this 2011, we were hovering at about 130 million gallons per day. So the delta is our growth in the
Well,
last 10 years?
that's your consumption, Katie, aren't those? Those aren't revenue numbers. Those are consumption numbers. And that's your monthly consumption, 130 million gallons for, well, those numbers are right there. For July, 83 million gallons of consumption in 2010, 111 in 2011, which is the all-time for that line. August actually was 128.
Right, I got you. I was just asking for 2022 today.
Okay.
What are we about in July, August?
I didn't sum July and August, but roughly we're
No,
at 3.2. I'd be remiss if I didn't point in our drought contingency plan, there is a provision that is, as the stages get more crucial, the Public Works Director in the city has the ability to impose surcharges, drought surcharges for usage. If you're a household, and don't quote me on these numbers, if you have an annual 6,000 gallons is your average household usage, to enforce stricter water usage and to make up for the revenue loss, you can impose charges to recoup that loss. And it's in our plan.
we're gonna try to avoid that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Rain dances or whatever we need to do.
While she's looking that up, just another thing, we use all city employees as the eyes and ears for the city, and when they're out going through the city doing their regular jobs and everything, they're looking for violators. And we have door hangers that we put out, and this is the door hanger for stage 1. It says, warning, it has been brought to our attention that you are in violation of water conservation stage 1 restrictions. And it says in here, your cooperation is needed and all customers are required to follow the mandatory conservation stage restrictions. And then it says failure to comply may lead to a citation. And we've put out probably 50 or 60 of these in the last 2 or 3 months. And we also have the fix-it form on the website where people can turn in their neighbors, if you will, and we get a lot of those. And remember, we also have a lot of wells, water wells within our community that people use for irrigation. They're required by ordinance to post a sign in their yard stating that they are using well water for their irrigation. And it is a violation to put a sign in your yard if you don't have a well. So we took care of that. But we do monitor everything, and we've been lucky. We have not issued any citations. We don't have, I think we went to one address twice, but other than that, one time notified them. We haven't had repeat violators or a repeated address that's been turned in multiple times to the city. But we did go to one address twice, and we did not issue a citation. We just further reminded them that this is your final last chance before citations will be issued. So.
So you have 3 million gallons per day times 30 days. You should be probably in the 90 million gallons. I don't have my pumping numbers in front of me.
Mine's more of a comment versus a question. for those of us not on city water who are on well water but live within the city limits, it all depends on your depth, and it all depends on all the geology in the area. Just because you're on well water doesn't mean it's unlimited. The folks next to me, theirs is only 58 feet deep, where mine's 130 something. It escapes me, so I'm actually dipping into a different thing of water. So if you've got well water, you're not the only one using it. There are people that live on well water. So please keep that in mind. It's not a free source. Use as much as you want.
Item number 17, report from city manager on city hall update, certification pay update, windstorm insurance update, and short-term rental update.
You guys know that we're working on this. First of all, the city hall is moving. It's typically loud enough. City hall is moving forward. It is on schedule, quote unquote. We have been notified of some pieces of equipment that are going to have a significant delay. We are going to end up making some decisions based around those delays. For example, one of them is the backup generator. We know it's going to be past the building opening. We have to decide if we want to go ahead and give substantial completion and occupy prior to that generator being in. It's only a couple months off right now, but those will change as we go. So we're making decisions around that. The foundation has been poured. We've been making the security plan for the building, and that's pretty much all that we're working on right now, but it is on schedule right now. Certification pay, I know you guys had asked us to bring that back to you a couple of months ago. I'm sorry that I am just now diving into it, but there's some more intricacies surrounding it and availability and some things like that, but you'll probably see that in 2 meetings, I think, if that's okay with you guys. I'd rather do it right than now. So windstorm insurance, our current carrier came back about $100,000 higher for lower coverage. So we looked at a different carrier. We're still going to get the $100,000 hike, but we're going to get the same coverage that we've been carrying. And I think we believe that it's more important that all of our stuff be covered at the appropriate amounts. So we're going to switch carriers on that. Short-term rental, we have a good framework for that, definitions, everything defined. The next step in that is going to be going to all the homeowners associations, and we're going to do a workshop with you guys on that based on the homeowners association's input. Then we'll get with you guys and bring that together, and hopefully we can check that one off our list with the tree and the, what was the other one we got done?
RV.
The RV ordinance. So we're marking them off. We're working on them. Just because you haven't heard about them doesn't mean they're not being worked on, but they're on the list, and we'll be bringing them to you shortly. And I'll answer any questions.
Thank you for that update. I really appreciate that. The STR ordinance, because you said a workshop and the HOAs, I truly believe that one should be stakeholder led. You know, it is truly the HOAs and the residents that are feeling this. You know, we may be hearing it on council, but it's the neighborhoods that are getting hit with it. So as long as the community, to a certain extent, is involved in the process, and also the hotelers, the STR, actually owners, you know, make sure we're not taking the ability away to get a return on investment, but also still have the community.
Absolutely.
Don't want to ruin the neighborhood. So
There's going to be some conflicting decisions that need to come out of that, and that's where the workshop with you guys are going to come in.
Excellent. Thank you.
There is a committee through the chamber for STRs. Maybe get with them. It's a
Got
RV council had one. They just newly formed it, so maybe that'd be a good outlet to get information from.
Okay.
But
We got it.
You hear that, Chief?
Anyone else? Not. Item 18, reports from council. Ward 1.
Ward 1 is doing well. We're happy to be here. normal stuff going on. We've got Second Saturday coming up in a couple of weeks. We've got a sidewalk sale on the 17th. We've got the grand opening of the parking lot next to the depot on August 31st at 9 o'clock. All kinds of dignitaries supposed to be there. Things are moving in a forward direction. Not as fast as we'd like, but they are moving forward. So, and yeah, we still got drainage and flooding issues and, south of 12th, but we'll talk about that the next heavy rainfall.
Or two?
At our last meeting, I know it was a highlight of Katie's day, but we spent a morning with the Rockport Center for the Arts and did the conference center hard hat tour. That was really nice, and appreciate the opportunity to see the progress made with that really amazing facility that we're going to have available to us. Also, thank Mike Donahoe and his staff for taking me out, and we did a driving and talking tour of Ward 2 and looked at drainage opportunities and progress on activities in the ward for that area, and just appreciated that. So I think that's all I got, Mayor.
Okay, or three?
Able to attend a ribbon cutting this morning with Councilwoman Jackson and the mayor at Linden Oaks, and it was good to see them with the GLO. Also, not necessarily a ribbon cutting, but the VFW moved into their new building. So there's someone in this room who's very intimate with that knowledge. So was able to attend that with Mayor Pro Tem Hatton. So anyway, a lot of things going on in the community. School is, as we know, is back in, and the traffic jams in Fulton and Live Oak. So just be mindful of that. That's all I have.
Ward 4?
I'm just gonna extend that with the kids being back in school and with the school buses, especially because they're being picked up. They're getting picked up in the dark in the morning, especially. And I know I drop my kids off very early, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I see people driving very fast in the country club and on Enterprise. Just please be careful when you're out there. It's not safe, and it's okay to take taking a notch down to not hit a kid, going to their bus stop in the morning. Also, just want to say again, thank you for the drainage project. This is going to immensely help the country club, and we are really appreciative. And I think that's about it. Thank you.
I would like to say that contrary to all the things we can think of that might not be going terribly well for us right now, if we remember 5 years ago, the day after tomorrow, there were a lot of things going on here that made it really difficult to even imagine this place coming back and being anything in the next 10 years. And we have come a terribly long way since then. It's of great interest to a lot of people. I have a meeting tomorrow morning with these news folks from the cable network here in town, and we're going to talk about comeback from the city of Rockport. I spent about 4 hours the other day with 2 reporters from the Houston Chronicle, and we talked about how things were coming back for the city of Rockport. And a lot of people are concerned about it. We have come a really long way, and it's an amazing thing to see. A lot of people, dedicated, hardworking people, spend a lot of time seeing that we got here. I also like to say that I have talked to people that don't feel like they have come back very far and still have issues going on, and we still need to be doing what we can to help those people out to get to the point that they feel like they have accomplished something and their lives are back to something better. I believe that that will be accomplished to some degree when we have housing that people can afford, and we have people back here so that we can have folks working at waiter jobs and cook jobs and other jobs that we don't see those folks because they haven't come back. So we've got a ways to go and things to do, but I appreciate the fact that our town has done what it is, and I appreciate the fact that the good Lord has taken care of us to the extent that he has, and I'm awful proud of that. And that's all I've got. City Council will hold an executive session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551.071. Excuse me. Consultations with attorneys seeking the advice of an attorney about pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offer and on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter. Number one, Burnside Services Incorporated. Number two, Concho Street Drainage Project. Number three, Rockport Harvey Housing. We're in executive session. It is 7:55 PM. Hang on a minute. I'm told that there's a 20 down here. I never saw a 20. Yes,
One second, we're not out.
it has to do with executive session. Let me read this off right quick before we go any further. Section 551.072, deliberation about real property, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property at 622 East Market Street. Thank you. And it's still 7:55. I'm used to the thing at the end saying any action. and we are back in session. I have 3 pieces of paper here from some gentlemen that would like to talk with us. If y'all will take 5 minutes apiece or less, we would like to hear from you.
No, that is not what we discussed.
You said 5 minutes. You
Not
talk
each.
total. You get 3 minutes apiece. That way we'll take care of it. When they told me 5, I figured all of you got 5, but yeah, tell us who you are and that kind of thing, so.
Russell Cole, and I do not have an address in Rockport. Mayor, I'd like to take council introduce Tony Perez and John Davis. Their company is the new owner of Pearl Point Phase 1. And they're asking for an amendment to the 380 agreement, and they would like a moment to speak on that.
Thank you, Russell, and thank you to the council for your time. I'm Tony Perez, John Davis. Just to give you a little background on Reef Holdings and its management company, Reef Residential. We closed on Pearl Point Phase 1 last month and are currently under contract to purchase the second phase, which is under construction at the end of the year. We're based out of Dallas, and we invest in commercial real estate around the country, mainly in Texas and the Southeast. And we're, super excited to, number one, own the Pearl Point and be future owners of the Phase 2. Very pro-business in the area. We have other investments in Corpus Christi and Port Aransas and are looking to further invest. The reason we need the amendment to the 380 agreement, and it's really just one section of it, comes down to our lender. It's not us. The point being that the best lending available for these types of products for investors is Fannie or Freddie Mac financing. And they have, their legal counsel on the day or a couple days before closing had an issue with the section of the 380 agreement, which prohibits the owner from renting to residents who have vouchers through, or subsidy vouchers through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, basically. You're not allowed to rent to HUD. We're simply asking to have that removed. And I want to make clear that functionally speaking, it will have no impact on the property's operations. We, paid what we paid for the Pearl Point to keep the rents at market levels for Class A and to continue to provide Class A, highly amenitized, professionally managed, professionally leased, professionally maintenanced properties. And we have rent qualifications, things of the sort like requiring a certain income to rent ratios, which would preclude anybody who would otherwise qualify for housing vouchers in the first place from being able to rent anyways. But it for us, it's just because it helps. It's our lender having that issue, and we'll, the amendment we're proposing is to keep the rents at market level. Yes.
Hi, everybody. John Davis. I'm asset manager at Reef Holdings in Dallas, Texas. And I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to, and my colleague, to come and speak to you all. Tony did a great job explaining our position. Again, super excited. Being a Texas native my entire life, I've loved Rockport. And I'm actually going to be the asset manager on Pearl Point 1. And then once we acquire Phase 2, I will be the asset manager on that property as well. Be great to be able to come and visit down here and make sure everything's running smoothly. And yes, this is obviously this 380 amendment is very valuable to us as a company, and we look forward to hearing y'all's thoughts on it. Thank you so much.
Well, Mayor, I'll open it up. Appreciate you guys coming in and taking the time to come visit with us, and look forward to giving you my card after this and making myself available to you as your Ward 2 representative. I think we're all in agreement, and I'll let the council speak for themselves, but this doesn't appear to be an issue for us, right? You're a private company, private business, whatever the issue is between you and your lender is that. The amendment at face value, I don't believe that's anything that's of any concern to us. I personally like the idea that we'll be able to extend additional housing options to those who may qualify for voucher programs under the housing programs for HUD. Had a little bit of education while we were in executive session about what the original intent of the housing program or project was. I was not on council, and as I don't believe anybody else here was. And so, knowing that it was not originally designed or intended for low to middle income housing, but this may provide some additional opportunity for those to be able to move into that complex. It's a beautiful complex. It's a great asset to our community. So that was kind of the extent, I guess, of my comments. Again, this is you're a private owner, and if this is what you want, I don't know that we have any reason to stand in your way to be able to provide the services you want to your tenants.
Okay. If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept the amendment as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, we call for a vote. Ward 1.
Okay, that's fine. I just make sure you weren't thinking too.
The motion is to approve?
Yes.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Motion passes. Anything further? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Done. We're adjourned. It is, thank you, Teresa. It is 8:40.